Coming to Apple TV Plus on August 9th.
You the Marine?
Yeah. You the ex-con?
Yeah, I did time, but you only got to cast aspersions at me.
From the director of Mr. and Mrs. Smith and The Bourne Identity comes a new film.
Is this your first job?
I know what I'm doing.
A little late for a career change.
Starring Matt Damon.
Everybody in New England is after us.
And Casey Affleck.
Go, 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 go! What are you doing?
Taking notes.
Taking notes on a criminal conspiracy.
The Instigators, rated R. Streaming August 9th on Apple TV Plus.
This is The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
They're running a strange program, y'all.
Now, here's Frank Morano.
No, you look so confused. Like, what's going on?
What is this?
This is what we play every single day.
I do hear it in the background when I'm getting ready. Yeah.
And you aren't here.
I am. I hear it, but I don't really know what it is. So.
This is the I'm Not Tired Yet.
Okay, because there's another
by
hour
the Swan
show
Silvertones
left. I get
that
it.
Frank ripped off from Curtis from years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
By the way, if you're just tuning in, it is The Other Side of Midnight. Noam laden in for Frank Morano, who's got a nice vacation going on. He's drinking his cans of tap soda down at the Jersey Shore. By way of introduction, I'm the news director at the home station right here in New York, WABC. Sometimes you hear me in this hour, actually, 4:30, yucking it up with Frank. When we left you at the top of the hour there, we're talking about the fact that Israel has vowed Hezbollah going to pay the price after blaming the Lebanese militant group for this rocket attack in the Golan Heights that killed 12 children, touching off fears once again of an all-out war that would envelop in the region. Pretty frightening stuff. So we wanted to get more information, and we're doing so. Talking with a correspondent for the Jewish News Service, jns.org. His name is Josh Hasten, and he's in Israel, and he joins us back again on the Newsmaker line. Josh, when we left you, we were talking about this attack that took place over the weekend. These weren't Jews that were murdered. These were Druze. Who are the Druze?
Yeah, so the Druze are loyal citizens of the State of Israel. Their religion is an offshoot of Shia Islam, but they do not consider themselves Muslims. They are Arabs, and they have a pretty secret religion. It's sort of based on both Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. There are about 150,000 Druze living here in Israel, mostly in the north, and a large majority of the male Druze community serves in the Israeli army. They're extremely loyal to the country where they live. So since they live in the State of Israel, whether in the Galilee or in the Golan, vast majority loyal to the State of Israel and serving in the army. Unfortunately, they've had losses in their ranks as well in the Israeli army, fighting against Hamas down in the south and also against Hezbollah in the north. So, very loyal, beautiful sect, practicing their religion freely, openly here in the State of Israel. A lot of people don't realize we have so many minorities here, whether they're Muslim or Arabs or Christian or Druze. And again, here we are, just with kids who are wanting to play soccer on a Saturday, who were murdered by Hezbollah. You have former communication minister Ayub Kara, as a member of the Druze community. See, there you have people who, accuse Israel of being an apartheid state or whatnot. And you have Druze who were actually ministers in the government, members of parliament. He said that this is a golden opportunity which must be seized for Israel to get rid of the menace of Hezbollah terrorism from our northern border. And I also saw a video released by one of the groups of Druze, I don't know if that was from Israel or from Lebanon, saying that they, as in Hezbollah, will pay the price for what they did to the Druze children. So they're not sitting back at all. They are saying that they will take all necessary means in order to send a message to Hezbollah. And I'm not even talking about the Israeli army. They're saying they're going to do it on their own if necessary. And those could be groups within the country of Lebanon itself, the Druze community from that country.
Hezbollah, no doubt, knew what they were doing when they fired off this missile. And what we've always learned, or thought anyway, was this is a war we didn't want to happen between Hezbollah and Israel. It was one thing to go after Hamas, another thing to go after Hezbollah. So what is the strategy here on the part of Israel when they respond?
Yeah, no, Israel doesn't want a war, but if we are being forced in a situation where I don't know what other choice we have. So, according to a lot of the pundits and commentators here, we're talking about three possibilities. Number one is a direct strike, a major strike against Hezbollah, perhaps against its leaders who are cowering underground in Lebanon. That could be an option. Another option could be a strike against some of the infrastructure. Again, as we mentioned before, Hezbollah essentially is embedded itself within the Lebanese population, and they're a strong influence within the government, and they have seats in the parliament there. So there could be some sort of strike against the infrastructure there in Lebanon, which would actually send a message to the Lebanese people that it's time for them to act and regain their country against this terrible maniacal organization, Hezbollah, which is ruining their lives as well. Option number three is perhaps a strike against the octopus that has its tentacles all over the Middle East and all over the world, really, and that is Iran. So perhaps Israel would decide to strike Iran. And people, your audience has to remember, Iran, who calls the shots when it comes to Hezbollah, finances, supports Hezbollah, Iran views Israel as the little Satan. When they're talking about the great Satan, they're talking about the United States. So this is not just a domestic problem here in Israel. It's not just a regional problem in the Middle East, but this is something that could reach the shores of the United States. And Iran says this each and every day, and they support terrorism all over the world. They're the largest state supporter of terrorism in the world, and they're the true target behind Hezbollah. So Israel, perhaps as a third option, could strike Iran directly. So those are the three options on the table right now.
All right, you, Josh Hasten, correspondent for JNS, JewishNewsService.org. What do you think is going to happen?
It's a very good question. I mean, as we're talking now, I'm just seeing reports that Israel did, in fact, target a terrorist in a car and a motorcycle as well in Hezbollah. Again, it's not clear if a strike this soon after the massacre of the children is directly related to what happened over the weekend, because Israel has been striking against the terrorists in Lebanon since the beginning, since October the 7th, when Hezbollah decided to throw their hat in the ring with Hamas as well. So if you ask me, it looks like Israel will start by targeting Hezbollah, perhaps going after their leadership. We have taken out a bunch of their high-ranking officers, but you do have the heads of that snake, the Hezbollah snake, over there in Lebanon, who still remain hiding, of course, cowering below ground, while the people of Lebanon are being used as human shields, just like Hamas does the same down in Gaza, using their own people as human shields. But if I were to guess, I would say it would be a major, major strike, perhaps similar to the one that Israel took just several weeks ago when they struck into Yemen after the Houthis launched a deadly attack into Israel. An Israeli was murdered in Tel Aviv in a drone strike, and Israel responded, targeting a port there, a major port, where arms were being imported from Iran to the Houthis in Yemen. So I'm thinking in my head right now, we would see something similar, a major strike on a major site, perhaps targeting some of the major leaders in Hezbollah, along with their resources and perhaps some of their shipping lanes in which they use to bring in weapons from Iran. That's what I'm seeing, but you never know. Again, the prime minister authorized to use whatever force is necessary in order to make sure another horrible attack in which 12 children were murdered simply because they live in the state of Israel doesn't happen again.
Well, at what point does Israel run out of manpower to fight a war in Gaza and then potentially fight another war against Hezbollah? Are there enough soldiers, enough people to fight those wars?
It's a very good question, and it certainly is a challenge. But what Israel is doing now is they are rotating both regular soldiers right now who are fighting in Gaza. They're rotating them in and out, along with the reservists who are rotating in and out, both on the southern front and on the northern front. So again, I can't give you the details in terms of behind the scenes how it's being done, but I know for a fact, including having, friends and whatnot, and people I know who are serving, whether in the south or the north, people are being rotated in and out at all times in order to give them a breather and prepare them for the next wave. You have reservists who have been, some of them serving for 3, 4, 5 months at a time, coming home, getting a breather, and then being sent on to a different front. So if you ask, can Israel handle a war on two fronts? Yeah, absolutely difficult for sure. But on the other hand, I think Israel, as the prime minister said, by the way, we're actually not only fighting on two fronts. If you figure in all the different terrorist organizations, the Houthis and whatnot, now we have a threat this morning from Turkey threatening to possibly invade Israel.
Yeah, I saw that.
Israel has to deal with a war on multiple fronts. We have the will, we have the manpower, we have the capability, we have the resolve, and I think we are able to do that, especially when we are being threatened. And this is an existential threat, just like it was in 1948, 1967. We are under the same type of threat, those who do not want to see the existence of a Jewish state here in the Middle East, and we'll have to deal with all of those threats as necessary.
Talking with correspondent from JNS, the Jewish News Service, jns.org, doing an excellent job. Josh Hasten describing what's going on in Israel. He's in Israel this morning. Can you connect all the dots here for us? We watched Bibi Netanyahu come to the U.S. He spoke before a joint session of Congress. Are Israelis rooting? Are they rooting for one side in this race for the White House? Are they rooting for Kamala Harris? Or are they rooting for Donald Trump?
Listen, if you ask me, and based on the first term of President Donald Trump and all the amazing things he did in this country, moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, acknowledging the fact that the Golan Heights is part of the state of Israel, giving legitimacy to Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria, there's no doubt that he has done more than any other president in the history of this wonderful relationship between the two countries. Let's remember, Israel and the United States, great friends, regardless of who's in the White House. We definitely have the support of the American people. We feel the support of the American people. But right now, I think Kamala Harris is a little bit of a problem, especially you saw the comments she made after meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu, originally showing her support for Israel, and then once the Prime Minister left and she came on screen giving her remarks in front of the reporters, she then started focusing on Gaza without directly calling on Hamas to take steps. She mentioned Hamas, but didn't say they have to take steps in order to stop the violence and the terrorism coming out of Gaza. She also then, essentially talked about the humanitarian aid to Gaza as if that was the top priority instead of number one, ensuring that Hamas is no longer a threat to the state of Israel. So some really troubling remarks out of the Harris camp, and of course President Biden, sort of a lame duck at this point where things stand with him. But I was definitely disappointed with the comments Harris made, essentially kind of equating both sides, whereas she could have gone against Hamas, much more harshly, telling them to stop once and for all. If you really want the war to stop, you have to fulfill those three goals of Israel. That is, number one, Hamas must be dismantled. Number two, our hostages must be returned. And number three, Gaza can no longer be a threat to not only Israel, but to the region as well. So it sounds like President Trump had a very, very good meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu, much more cordial. They also had to bridge some gaps that they had in their relationship. It looks like that was accomplished.
Was that the first time they had spoken since the election, right? I know that Donald Trump was very upset with Bibi Netanyahu because he made that phone call to Joe Biden in 2020, congratulating him on the election. Was this the first time the two had spoken since then?
I don't know about spoken, but from what I know, this is the first time the two met. And you could see by the reception that Prime Minister Netanyahu got from President Trump down in Florida, it looks to me like it's water under the bridge. It looks like they patched things up. They went in cordially. The statements made afterwards sounded like it was a very positive meeting, sounded like they're on the same page. And President Trump also making a commitment that he would assist Israel with whatever we need in terms of bringing back the hostages, finishing off Hamas. So he definitely said all the right things. And again, the proof is in the pudding. The things that he did the first time when he was in the office really was a boost to the state of Israel.
Talking with Josh Hasten, who's with the Jewish News Service, jns.org. Josh, you did an excellent job. Thank you for coming on with us and giving us an update of everything that's going on in Israel.
Anytime. My pleasure. Thanks, Noam. Have a great day.
You too. All right. When we come back, I am going to talk about this study that talks about the fact that couples aren't having kids anymore. And I have some thoughts about why they're deciding not to have kids. We're going to get into that story and more. You're listening to The Other Side of Midnight.
The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
This summer, during the biggest sporting event of the year, Peacock turns to two broadcasting legends for the Olympics coverage you can't find anywhere else.
I think they mean us.
With an incredible duo sure to take home the comedy gold. Olympic Highlights with Kevin Hart and Kenan Thompson. New episodes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Only on Peacock.
All right, next up, we got a fresh and fruity track coming at you from Welch's. This one's for everyone out there, fruiting stuff up.
Fruity, 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 rockin' everywhere, rockin' everywhere, rockin' everywhere. I found you, Miss Real Fruity. Juice it up, then bring it back to me.
Welch's, fruiting up your day. Thank y'all for tuning in, and thanks to Welch's for bringing us that big, bold, delicious flavor. Made with real fruit for a taste as bold as you.
Welch's, let's fruit stuff up.
It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
22 minutes after the hour. Noam Laden in on The Other Side of Midnight. It is a Frank-free Monday. It's actually going to be a Frank-free week. Frank Morano's got the week off. Well-deserved break. He's down to the Jersey Shore. So I hit this milestone today that has me feeling incredibly old. My oldest child, right now at midnight this morning, he turned 21 years old. Oh, man, how's that? I remember being 21. How's that possible that he is 21? And you'll be happy to know that he, about when I was leaving to come into work this morning, his girlfriend was showing up to spend the night. So I know some parents don't like that, but I let him do whatever he wanted. He's 21 years old now. I'm not going to stop him from having a good time. So she was showing up. And I have to say that for the most part, I've loved having kids. I mean, obviously there's tons of challenges with having kids, but the fun part is there's so many great parts of having kids. And when all said and done, it was the greatest decision of my life. No two ways about it. I mean, I guess marrying my wife and having kids, they probably tied 1 and 2. Because maybe I should put just in case she's listening. My wife, number 1. There's no way she's listening, by the way. It's 4:20 in the morning. She's sleeping. But my wife, number 1, my kids, number 2. But apparently, I am starting to be more and more alone in my thought about having kids when it comes to American couples. A growing number of U.S. adults say they're unlikely to raise children. This according to a study released by the Pew Research Center over the weekend. When the survey was conducted, this was back last year, 2023, 47% of those younger than 50 without children said they were unlikely to ever have a child. That's an increase of 10% from the last time they did this study back in 2018. When asked why kids were not in their future, 57% said they simply didn't want to have them. Now, I thought this part was most interesting. Women were more likely to respond this way than men, that they didn't want kids. Further reasons included the desire to focus on things like their career or interest, concerns about the state of the world, worries about the costs involving raising a child. They are expensive. Concerns about the environment, really, including climate change. How does having kids affect climate change? I'm sure there's some reason I don't know about. The results echo a 2023 Pew Research study that found that only 26% of adults said having children was extremely or very important to living a fulfilling life. So what's happening now is we're almost at that breaking point where we're not having enough kids to replace the ones of us that are dying off, that are passing away. And I wonder if we become so self-involved. What is wrong with these people? How selfish can you get? And how could you not want to have kids? I don't get it. I really don't get it. One of the first things I did when I met my wife, and I said to her, I come from a huge family. I got 4 brothers, 5 boys. I want to have a huge family. I want to have as many kids as we possibly can. And she was on board. She said, let's do it. Let's start pumping out those babies.
Wow.
Of course, the fun part is, getting ready to do that. And when they come out, it's a whole nother ball game. But I don't get it. How people can be so self-involved, so career-driven. Really, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love what I do. But when I leave here, I have a whole secondary life that involves my kids and doing other things. And the career is great. And luckily, knock on wood, you hear that? It's been successful. I've been successful at it. But the most important thing in my life were those kids. Yet fewer Americans are saying they're going to have them at all. 646-720-0635. 646-720-0635. Maybe you're one of those people who's decided not to have kids and might be angry to hear me say that I think it's selfish and maybe you should think about having those kids. I know I'm not talking about the people who can't have kids. I know there's people who can't have kids, but you could adopt. You could always adopt a kid. And, Matt, you don't have any kids, right?
I do not.
Right. And so clearly you made the decision not to have them, right?
That is correct. As I got older, I said, I don't want any kids.
And what was the reasoning behind not having any?
Well, there was a bunch of different reasons, but one of them was one that you said that, I have a career and the last thing I need is to have to look after some little brat that is just a problem to me.
Right.
Why do I need
They're
that?
not brats, though. They're brats at times. But most of the time, it's pretty awesome. I mean,
and did you ever think when you were yelling at your son for something,
right?
Like, I should have never had you.
Never.
Never.
Oh my God, I've never, ever, ever had
nothing
that
like that.
No, in fact, I've thought
or did you ever think, like, how did this kid come out of me?
Well, no, I've had that thought.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, any good trait that he has is from my wife. I can tell you that much.
Right.
And all the bad ones are from me, including biting his nails constantly.
Yeah, I do that
too. You do 646-720-0635. I'd be curious to know if you find this as fascinating as I do, that more and more Americans, according to this Pew Research study, say that they do not find that that kids would be a fulfilling thing in their life, and that these numbers are the lowest, by the way, on record since they started doing the study in terms of asking about kids and what kids might mean to couples and why kids have them and why they don't. And this large number of people who have not had kids yet, under 50, a large number of them say that they have no plans to do so. They're not going to have any kids at all. And I just think it's interesting that I think I'm like a lot of Americans. I couldn't wait to have them.
Well, I think, first of all, at my age now, if I were to have a kid, I'd end up being an old dad.
Right.
Look, Robert De Niro just had a kid and he's much older than me. But I've always thought, like, I don't want to be the old dad. I would have been a good young dad, but I don't think that defines you as a person. One thing I will say is the fact that I don't have any kids has kept me younger.
Really? See, I would say the opposite's true.
Well, you're a dad, though. Now you got to do dad things.
Right, so that keeps me young.
Yeah, but I've never had to do dad things. I've never had to be in charge of another human being. I never had to shape and mold a little boy or a little girl's mind. I'm still the same person I was 25 years ago in my head.
Right.
Because I don't have any kids. So I've never moved on to that stage of life.
So you're still like a kid yourself.
Exactly. Because I've never moved on. That's a whole nother stage when you have kids. You go from being free and able to do whatever you want to now being responsible for another life. I've never had to be responsible for another life except for my dogs. I never had to, and I can leave them. I can, as long as they have food, as long as I'm home by 7 p.m. to feed them at night, that's all I got to worry about. I don't have to worry about a babysitter. I don't have to worry about sending the kids to school. What kind of school? Public school, private school? What kind of extracurricular activities they're going to have? If they're going to play Little League? Are they going to play soccer? Are they going to get into wrestling? Are they going to be into karate? I had none of that. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. The only person I worry about was me.
You make a compelling argument. At 30 minutes after the hour, this is the other side of midnight. It is a Frank-free Monday. Noam Laden filling in for Frank. But I will argue back at you, Matt Blaze, that I have done things that I've never done before because my kids wanted to do them. And it's been more fulfilling. So,
such as?
I jumped out of an airplane.
Oh, I would never do that. Are you crazy? You did that because your kids wanted to?
My oldest one, yeah.
He wanted to jump out of an airplane?
Yes, I jumped out of an airplane.
Did you go tandem with him or tandem with an instructor?
Tandem with an instructor.
And did you get pictures of this?
We did. I have pictures. I can send them to you.
Video?
No video, just pictures.
Oh, I got to see this.
Yeah. I did things like stupid things. Like I was never like a roller coaster guy at the amusement park, but the kids love the roller coasters. I get on them. I've all kinds of stuff like that. I've gone hiking in places that I've never thought I would go hiking before. You sort of follow their interests. One of my kids, by the way, is about to have his first amateur bout as a UFC fighter here in the city.
Cool.
So
that I like.
I had never been a UFC guy. Now, Saturday nights are sitting on the couch watching these UFC fights. We just watched this one over the weekend, knowing who all these UFC fighters are. Not in a million years would I have been that guy if I had not been for my kid. And now he's about to get... Now I'm a little nervous. It's his first bout ever.
Wow.
He's going to fight, and hopefully he'll beat the living daylights out of this guy that he's fighting.
I needed you as a dad because I wanted to take karate as a kid, and I went to one class.
Right.
My dad we went to one class. It was the free class, the trial class, and I wanted to do it, and he said no. And I said, well, why not? Like, why can't I do this? And he goes, why do you want to learn karate? And I go, well, in case I ever get into a fight. And then he uses the old Karate Kid line. No, that's the wrong answer. It's so you don't have to fight.
Right.
And I was like, come on, Dad. He's like, everything was always this. Get your grades up and then we'll talk about it. I think he just didn't want me to beat him up. I think he was afraid that 14-year-old me was going to beat him up. And he didn't want me to take karate.
Well, I will tell you that when my kid got his amateur bout, that he's now, it's in 2 weeks from now, I did actually just sort of automatically raise his allowance.
Yeah, good move.
I didn't even say anything. I just said, here's, a couple extra bucks.
Could you imagine if he just goes into your wallet and takes out some dough? Right. And it's just like you look at him and he goes, what are you going to do about it?
Right. There's nothing I could do about it. I should send you the video, man. He's unbelievable.
Now, what weight class is he?
He's going to fight at 140 pounds.
And how tall is he?
He's 5'9".
Okay, that's about right for that height. He's probably pure muscle now.
Oh, he's ripped.
He's ripped.
Yeah. I mean, he would beat all the other kids are afraid of him because
I'm sure
he would beat the living daylights out of them.
Well, that's the thing that people don't understand. Once a wrestler, any kind of wrestler, even if it's UFC, that type of grappling, once they get you on the ground, if you don't know anything, you're done.
Yeah.
Even if you take Taekwondo, but you don't know how to grapple, once you get into close quarters, that's it.
Yeah.
It's over because they put a lock on you, but an arm bar, and they'll break your arm in 2 seconds.
Yeah, well, okay, so there you go. There's another reason why you do have kids. I never would have had this moment where potentially I have a future UFC star in my house. I mean, maybe not, who knows? We'll find out in his first amateur bout in 2 weeks. But those kind of adventures I never would have had. And there is a part of me that says, wow, how could you be so self-centered? I understand, like, now you're at a point where obviously you're too old to have kids, but that somehow... Part of the study found was that when they asked people why they didn't have kids, is they said they wanted to keep their money. They wanted to be able to do whatever they wanted to do. And I think about all the sacrifices that their parents made for them, but they feel like they don't have to make those sacrifices themselves. And the fact that we're at this tipping point now where we're getting close to that part where we're not replacing the Americans that passed away because this younger generation apparently just too selfish, too involved to have kids on their own.
First of all, I don't buy all that we're not replacing people argument. There's always going to be enough people on the planet.
Well, not if you look at the study. Each time they've done the study, the numbers have gone down. 646-720-0635. Maybe you're one of those people who've made the choice like Matt has in a selfish way to not have kids. Or maybe you're someone like me who said this is incredibly fulfilling and kind of sad to think that there's this generation that's so self-involved, more worried about their career, more worried about holding on to their money that they've opted to not have kids. 646-720-0635. In this study, they talked to a bunch of psychologists who then looked at this thing afterwards. And one of them is this woman, Corinne Dachi. She's a professor of psychology at William Patterson University. And she said that in her private practice, she's been seeing couples, and she's seen this growing number of women in their 30s who are starting to question whether they should ever have children, while their male partners seem more open to the idea, which I found surprising. I thought for sure maybe it'd be more men that wouldn't want kids than women, but it's not even close. And they say there's this level of mistrust where the women are skeptical that their male partners would be willing to sacrifice as much as they would to help raise their families. And this is some of the argument is that when you do have those kids, the women are way more involved in taking care of them than the men are. And that's probably pretty accurate, at least from most of the families that I know.
But isn't that how it's always been, that the women are more involved with taking care of the kids? That was the traditional family. The husband, the father goes out and works. The mom is home with the kids. That was the old way of doing things. Our generation, Generation X, was the first generation of latchkey kids where we came home to both parents working.
Right.
So maybe now the generation is saying, listen, we don't want that. We'd rather just not have any kids. And what about, does the study take into account that people are living longer these days than in years past? And that there's still more people because people are living longer? And what about in the future, maybe everybody will live to be 115, 110,
yeah, but who's going to
take,
Matt, who's going to take care of you when you get to be that old?
Well, listen, the way the world is going right now, there's going to be so much, there'll be something in the way of that will keep us younger, that will be able to give us some kind of medications that will keep you going all the time. I think eventually you probably won't even need to sleep anymore. You'll just be able to be on the run 24/7 every day of the year. You'll be able to be doing something with the way medications are, that eventually you won't have to worry about replacing people. There'll just be enough people. I don't know how old they'll be, but would you want to be youthful like a vampire? You'd be able to live to be 400 years old and still running around and doing whatever you're doing now? No, you don't want to do that.
No. I mean, when it's time, it's time. All right. I want to see what other people think besides the two of us. I'm sure people agree with me. Let's start with Michael. Michael, you're on the other side of midnight, line number 2, it looks like. Line number 2, Michael, you're on the other side of midnight on a Frank-free Monday with Noam Laden. What do you think, Michael?
No, you guys are great. Noam, first and foremost, I just want to say before we get into that, the children, when you deliver the news, you make it so, no matter how tragic it is, the story, you make it like interesting.
Oh, thank you.
And honestly, you're the greatest I've ever. I'm a radio freak. I've been on radio since, well, not in radio, but actually, yes, part of radio since like the '60s. And I'll just say that it's unbelievable.
Oh, well, that's very nice of you, Michael. Now you can talk as long as you want to. Go ahead.
No, but when you think about it, I mean, there's two sides to every coin, right? I mean, there's two sides to every coin. So the fact of the matter is, our society, it dictates no children. We ain't got time for that. We got to be focused on us.
Do you have kids?
We got to be. Oh, yes.
How many do you got?
4.
Oh, see, there you go. And it's been like the greatest thing that's ever happened to you, right?
Well, I mean, I can say that there are times when you say, like, if I didn't do this, I wouldn't have had to put up with this nonsense.
I've been there before, but most of the time it's pretty good, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I mean, the reward, I think the reward is so, you can't compare any reward in life than to having children.
And Michael, right? This is the best part Matt doesn't understand is when you and I get really old, there'll be somebody to take care of us.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Maybe not your kids. Michael, thank you very much for your...
No, but really, keep it up.
You're a good man.
You're great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. I should tell my dad to stop calling. All right, Jim in New Jersey, you're on the other side of midnight. Good morning, Jim.
Yes, hi. I'm a 74-year-old man. I have 2 children, one natural and one my adopted, but I never really wanted children. They're so expensive, and you're so tied down. They interfere with your job, and I don't know. Now that I'm older, it's better. You know what I mean?
So if you did it all over again, you wouldn't have had them. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, probably.
Oh, I hope they're not listening. Have they given you problems? Like, why all of a sudden you're feeling that way now?
No, I mean, no, because maybe you got a lot of money. You know, it's so hard to make ends meet. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. It's such a financial burden, and as far as not enough people to replace, I don't buy that, because the world is getting so crowded you can't even move anymore.
Well, you're right. The Chinese will help us there. I mean, they just keep pumping them out like nobody's business.
I mean, every time you see a nice piece of land, all they do is build condos, apartments. I mean, it's getting kind of sickening, and the population problem, I think, is the cause of most problems in the world. If you know, overpopulation, you got hunger, you got climate change. When you say you don't know how that could affect climate, the more people, the more.
Well, let me ask you this, Jim.
The more garbage.
Right. At the end of the day, net positive, net negative that you had kids.
Right now, it's net positive.
See, there you go. All right, thank you, Jim. There we go. All right, so far, Matt, you're losing this battle. Let's keep going. Flo is in Connecticut. Flo, you are on the other side of midnight on a Frank-free Monday. Do you think the survey is a good thing that fewer couples are having kids, or should those young couples think about having kids?
Well, let me just say this, Noam, and thank you for taking my call. I think you sound so sexy when you talk about your children. A man. When I hear a man say that, and let me just say this: I have regrets, because I am African American, retired military officer, did very well.
We salute you for your service, obviously.
Oh, you're welcome. Enjoyed it, but let me tell you, I'm sitting here in Connecticut. I moved from Northern Virginia, Mount Vernon, back here to Connecticut. I am the most loneliest person.
Oh, no.
I wish I had my children, and my husband and I had talked about children, but I put my doggone career ahead of children. And now I am divorced, and my husband is now enjoying his own children. So
wait, so he had children with he had kids with another woman. Is that what you're saying? Or
that is correct. Yes.
And you didn't have kids?
No, I don't. No.
And now you're regretting it?
Absolutely. I have the money, have my condo, but man, I am lonely. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
If I could turn back the hands of time. So I just want to salute you, Noam, for really being a great father. And let me reiterate again, you sound so sexy when you talk about being a father.
I just love, nobody has ever used the word sexy and my name in the same sentence. So,
but I love hearing that when a man says that.
Yeah, well, I think, Flo, we all live with different kinds of regrets in our life. All of us have tons of them, and especially as we go older, we start to think about some of the things we wish we had done and wish we hadn't done. But I'm sorry to hear that you're lonely, and I hope that at least we keep you company when you're up late at night like this.
Oh, you do. Yes, you do. And look, I do have some friends whose children, I dreamt of my children attending West Point and the Naval Academy and all of that. But I do have friends. I am their godmother, so I guess that helps a little.
All right. Well, Flo, thanks so much for ringing in.
Thank you so much, Noam.
And thanks again for using the word sexy and my name all in the same sentence.
Absolutely.
That's all I'm going to think about the rest of the day, by the way. When I go home, I'm going to say, Pam, this woman Flo used my name and sexy in the same sentence.
Absolutely. And listen, I love your name, okay?
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much,
okay.
Flo.
Take care.
You too. Bob in Minnesota, you are on the other side of midnight. Bob, kids are net positive or net negative?
Net positive for sure. My two daughters are the biggest blessing in my life. And now one daughter has my first grandson, and she's pregnant and due next month. And now we just found out my second daughter is pregnant, so I'll be a grandfather of 3 at 53 years old.
Wow.
So I was a young father, which was a blessing for us, not when we had them as early as we did, but it certainly is now. But my biggest fear is this crazy world that my daughters are bringing kids into. And that's probably the biggest reason why kids or younger adults are not having kids these days.
Yeah,
that would be my take.
But I sort of feel like, yeah. Go ahead.
Your mom and dad calling in. Come on.
I know. Can you believe it? Flo's my mom and Michael's my dad. Yeah. I hear what you say, that it's a crazy world, but I think that if you had asked my parents about whether it was a crazy time to bring me into the world, they probably would have said the same thing. There was all kinds of turmoil. There's always good reason not to do it. But then you can say, look, I look at the ultimate positive is you're bringing new people into the world who have new ideas, and they're new people to find out problems, solve problems, fix what's wrong. So maybe I'm just too on the upside at this hour of the morning. But I think ultimately it's a good thing to bring these kids into the world, especially if you have the means to do so and raise them. And they are, they're the future leaders of our planet. Maybe they'll have great ideas that'll fix things that are wrong.
100%.
All right. Thank you, Bob. Should we keep going? Okay. Let's see. Wayne is in New York. Wayne, welcome to the other side of midnight on a Frank-free Monday.
Thanks for taking my call, man. You guys are great. Love it in the morning. Yeah, I have no regrets. I had 6 kids with my first wife after 20 years.
Do you know all their names? Can you go ahead, name them all right now, all 6?
Oh, Josiah, Psalm, Simeon, Emerald, Judah, and Deborah.
Okay, good.
Right. And then I married a woman. We've been together 20 years, but she had, in her previous marriage, 5 kids. And between us, we have over 15 grandkids.
Oh, my God.
Zero regrets. And it was very deliberate on my part, having 6 children. It's been amazing to watch. And I always thought maybe I'll bring into the world a scientist, maybe somebody who can solve world problems.
Right.
Maybe, you don't know what you're going to produce. And seeing what they've all become is just absolutely amazing. Between us, we got 5 kids with masters, I think it is.
Yeesh.
1 teacher, 1 major in the Air Force. You see this and you go, wow, I had a part of that. So.
Yeah, that's very cool. Wayne, thank you so much. I know that I can remember, 5 kids in my house. That I can't even imagine what it was with all those kids in your house. My father would yell for one of us to come downstairs, but he'd go through all 4 other names first till he got to the right one. So it'd be Ben, Ethan, Adam, Zev, Noam, come downstairs, because there's so many kids in the house. Yeah, couldn't come up with all the names.
11 kids. That's 2 basketball teams and a sub.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. All right. More to get to. This is the other side of midnight. Noam Laden filling in. Don't go anywhere.
The other side of midnight. It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
Huey Lewis in the news. Look at you. You're going very 80s on me, Matt Blaze.
Well, I figured with this topic of parents and kids, Stuck With You is the song.
Wow, look at you.
Flo said you were sexy because you talked about your kids. I was like, maybe I should have told her I had 12 kids.
Right.
I forgot about.
You could have scored.
Yeah, you got in there.
Talking about this Pew study. By the way, Noam Laden in for Frank Morano, Other Side of Midnight. The results of this 2023 Pew study that found that only 26% of adults say having children was extremely or very important to live a fulfilling life. That is 10% higher than it was just in 2018. And essentially what the survey does, without giving you all the numbers and boring you with them, is that more couples than ever in this Pew Research study that they've done are deciding not to have kids. And my thought is that I think that's kind of self-involved, selfish, when the reasons they give to for not having these kids are that they want to hold on to their money. I kind of get it. Kids are incredibly expensive. They want to further themselves in their career, but at some point, it's just your career, and you got to go home at the end of the day, and that they just want the time to themselves. And the fact that so many couples are going in that direction, I find it surprising. In my generation, I'm an 80s kid. Almost all my friends do have kids. It's very few of them. But if you go to the next generation after that, you'll see a lot less people deciding to have kids. And just the thought was, is this selfish on the part of Americans? Do we need to keep having kids at a higher rate, or am I wrong about this? I could be. 646-720-0635. Let's go to E. Frank, who is in Queens. E. Frank, you're on the other side of midnight. Wait, so E. Frank is E. Frank?
I
wait.
now
Hold on a second, E. Frank.
past
E. Frank.
My generation.
Can you not hear me?
From 1970. Okay. I have no wife. I have no kids. I really have no serious, headaches.
Wait, bring him down for a second. Bring E. Frank down for a second. Put him on hold, because I just had a quick question I wanted to ask him. I know he wants to railroad his way through that, but maybe he can't hear me. Is it possible he can't hear me?
No, he hears you.
Oh, he just wants to get his point in?
I guess. Okay. Frank usually hangs up on him pretty quick.
Oh, he does?
Yes, I think that's probably why.
Oh, okay. So wait, is E. Frank, did someone tell him that I want to ask him a question? Elias, can you tell him I want to ask him a question? And then I'm going to take him again. And then if he follows those rules, I'll let him speak. Yeah. Is he, do you tell him that? Okay, he's good to go. Okay. E. Frank, let's do this again. You are on the other side of midnight. Good morning, E. Frank. Now, is your first name really E. Frank?
Yes, it is.
So you spell it E-F-R-A-N-K?
Yes.
What kind of name is that?
It was after a prophet named E. Frank.
Oh, really?
In Islam.
Oh, okay. I didn't know there was a prophet in Islam called E. Frank. All right, now go ahead, E. Frank. Tell me, because that was the first question I had when I saw your name show up on my board was, how did you come up with the name E. Frank? Net positive having kids or net negative? Are you somebody that has kids?
I don't have kids. I'm not married, but I'm very proud of the fact of the people who do have kids now, because they're actually from great-grandfathers and past grandfathers are getting moving their generations forward. I'm a first-generation American. I understand my situation, but I also like the way people are having kids now. They're doing the right thing. But you said that people are more concerned about their careers.
Yeah.
They have to have money to entertain their children at sports events. They have to bring happiness to their children. They can't do it without money, no.
Yeah, well, I don't know that that's true, by the way. If you talk to people who grew up in households that didn't have a lot of money, they regret that they didn't have a lot of money, but they would tell you that they found ways to entertain themselves and they weren't upset at their parents for not having cash.
Well, I was a strapped cash father who was very abusive sometimes, and I would not recommend people who don't have money to have children sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's different if he was abusive. I'm sorry to hear that. All right, E. Frank, thank you. Jimmy is on Staten Island. Now, Jimmy, you are on the other side of midnight with Noam Laden.
Thank you, Noam. I knew exactly where I was because I know your voice, and I was there, and I met you many years ago when you were a Cumulus, and I'm Jimmy Meatball.
Oh, I know. Jimmy Meatball. I know exactly who you are. How are you, Jimmy Meatball?
Yes, and I could see you right in front of me, and you're a wonderful, wonderful person all the way around. And
do you think I'm sexy like Flo does, or is that just...
Now, as far as children go, I'm 61, so I was born 1962. I'm the baby, if you will, of 5. And my oldest sibling is 70 and straight on down. And I'm 61, 2, 3, 4, all in order, my brothers. And my brother Tony is 66. Now, we didn't grow up with a lot of money, but we had a lot of macaroni every night, macaroni with butter, macaroni with potatoes, macaroni. Mother made the way, and my father. My father worked. My mother was at home. When we went to parochial school, which was about $7 a year back then, we all went to grandma's down the block and had lunch and then went back to school. And if you wanted children, you don't look at the world around you. It's what you want in your heart. And all children, I feel, no matter what race or creed, color, whatever, they're miracles of God. And you don't destroy that. You keep them. We grew up well. Everyone has their problem. As far as money was never an issue.
Yeah.
If we had to wear the same pants twice a day, well, so be it. But everything was washed, cleaned, and the love of God was in the house. And I don't regret anything. And I thank God and my parents. My dad did pass away, and my child, my son Frankie, rest in peace,
I'm sorry to hear
passed
that.
away at 23. Yeah, but with the good comes the bad. But when you grow up and hold on to one another as family and keep the values and the morals of yesteryear, not today because there are none. It makes it that much better, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
All right.
And I have my mother who's 87, and she still rules with an iron fist.
I like
you know
that.
what I'm saying?
I like that. Yeah, Jimmy, I'm waiting for you to bring another tray of meatballs to the radio station. Thanks so much for.
Hang up, I'm on my way.
Okay, Jimmy.
God bless you.
God bless. That's how he got the name Jimmy Meatball. Is that he brought us some pretty great meatballs all those years ago, and of course at a radio station, everybody loves some free food. They really do. All right. Hey, it's been a lot of fun hanging out with you on this Monday morning. I guess the suits, the people in the suites will decide whether I come back tomorrow or not to do this all over again. I hope they decide in my favor. If they don't, if they hear another voice, then you'll know, no, they thought I sucked.
I think you did a good job.
Okay, well, that's good. I like that.
I hear you every day.
And you do. Yeah. All right. Stay tuned, by the way. If you're in New York, you'll hear me doing another hour. This is The Other Side of Midnight, Frank Free Monday. Have a great one.